Hey, this is Phil and it's your Friday video update. So I missed a few weeks and I apologize for that, but I'm back with some good information today that I think you'll find helpful. You know, we've been hearing a lot in the news about a raise in the federal funds rate. And when most people talk about it, they say, oh, the Fed's going to raise rates. And they think they're talking about interest rates. And it's really not the case. And so I wanted to dive into this a little bit for you today and try to explain what's happening. So the Fed wants to raise the federal funds rate, which currently is at 0% and has been for quite some time. And the reason they're doing that is to combat inflation. You see, inflation is really the thing that's going to drive interest rates up. So contrary to popular belief, when the Fed raises the federal funds rate, the markets actually may look at this as a positive sign and say that, hey, the Fed's doing something with their monetary policy that's going to curb inflation and which actually may help improve rates. So why do I say that? Well, let's take a look at this chart. If you look, this is an example of when the Fed raised the federal funds rate back in 2004. The federal funds rate was at 1%. And the 10-year Treasury yield was at 4.73% in June 1, 2004. The Fed did 3 consecutive interest rate hikes, and all the while the Treasury yield declined. And you can see in the second box, on November 1st, 2004, the federal funds rate was then at 1.75%, up 0.75% from where it started. And the Treasury yield had actually dropped down 0.53% to 4.2%. Conversely, the Fed continued to raise rates, and by February 2005, the federal funds rate was now at 2.5%, 1.5% higher than it had been. And the Treasury yield was down another 0.03 to 4.17%. And this interest rate rise continued until the July of 2006. And at that time, the Fed had actually raised the federal funds rate 4.25%. And yet the Treasury yield had only risen 0.36% at that time. So this is history that shows us that oftentimes a change in the federal funds rate to the positive, or an upward rising federal funds rate, actually is a sign of good monetary policy trying to curb inflation, and that in turn helps interest rates. Now, I'm not here to tell you that this is going to be an absolute. I'm certain that probably when the Fed raises the federal funds rate, which is expected in December, that there'll be somewhat of an initial knee-jerk reaction in the markets just because it's human nature. But once the dust settles, there are some people that feel that this could actually help rates or at least keep rates stable. And so I wanted to pass this information on to you to just let you know this is not something to be super concerned about. Yes, in 2016 we expect rates to go up some, but forecasts are for them not to probably rise any more than maybe at worst 4.75% by the end of next year. So we're still in a very strong and good interest rate environment, and I think for the foreseeable future, it's not something to necessarily be too concerned with. I hope that helps. Feel free to pass that information along to prospective buyers. If you'd like to have them speak to me personally about this, I'm more than happy to help. Other than that, have a great day, have a great weekend. Forward and share this with whoever you think it might be helpful to. And I thank you for listening. I'll see you next week.